And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. MLS Cup is set. We now know that the Vancouver Whitecaps and Miami FC will face off down south to crown the champion in a matchup that MLS insiders are calling, and I quote, the marketing team's wet dream. We're going to chat
I don't
about
know
the.
about that.
Please. The only thing that would have been better if Sun got in there.
That's what I'm saying. That's the wet dream.
Yeah, but imagine they had to market Andres Dreyer against Messi. They would have been so disappointed.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
true.
we're going to chat about both games that led us to this moment and then preview next weekend's MLS Cup in its entirety. I'm Andrew, that's Connor, and here is your MLS Cup preview and predictions. Big Cone, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Oh, he started drinking already. It's only
Oh,
11.
man. We got to talk about Messi again. Gosh.
Yeah, but you
Um,
get to talk about him dumping on NYC.
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Spoilers.
Um, what we should talk about first is Scarf of the Week. What are you rocking?
All right, well, we each got the matchup going into the final. So I've got the Miami side here, and I know you've got the
Yeah, I'll pull out Vancouver with you. We
Canadians.
got both sides of the coin here. Bonus points for anybody in the comments who can pick out maybe some new, if you haven't seen it on Twitter already, maybe pick out some new additions to the wall. We've got some Black Friday deals that I just could not pass up. So do I have all of them in shot? I think I
I
do.
see two of them at least.
I see all four of them. Yeah, they're all up there. The problem is I've run out of room, so they're actually overlapping on a bunch of other ones. Like they're just covering the rest of them. So gonna have to
Expand the
extend.
wall.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. I'm
Build
gonna
the
have to.
wall.
Great, now we're canceled.
Not like that. The
We were
scarf
just
wall.
we were just getting hyped about being the number one rated podcast on feedspot.com for MLS, and now we're gonna go down and get canceled. Thank you. Before we jump into anything, yes, we do want to make a note that we have been rated number one MLS podcast by feedspot.com, which is a huge, huge honor. So thank you very much for that. You can go check out all of the MLS podcasts on that list if you so inclined, or you can just keep listening to us. And to continue to hear us, make sure you're following us on all forms of social media to interact with us. And most importantly, make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcast. Give us a rating, give us a shout out. Let's interact and have some fun, especially as the 2025 MLS season winds down to the final game. Where do you want to start? East or West?
Weast.
Wrong. We'll start in the East because that's the first one on my list, and it was the first game of the night last night. The Messi train continues to roll as Messi and friends put down a 5-1 beatdown on New York City FC in the conference finals to make it to their first ever MLS Cup. However, I would say it's probably tough to even say that it was the Messi train because the first time all playoffs, he really wasn't that much of a factor in the goal scoring moments. Right? He had one assist in 5 goals, which again, in a normal day is like, okay, cool. He contributed. For Messi, who's got 25 goal contributions and 27 goals or something like that, is crazy. So, New York City did a pretty good job keeping him under wraps, but it was the players around him that made the difference. And they got off to a very early start. They beat the New York City back line with a long ball over the top, which Allende got on the end of before blasting it past Matt Freese for the 1-0 lead. 7 minutes later, the most ridiculous midfield scrum in all of maybe MLS history kicks off after Maxi Morales and Maxi Falcone just fouled each other. And then they just started like arguing over it. I think Maxi Morales saw yellow, and then he and Falcone were arguing likely about who the best Maxi on the field was. That has to be my guess, because what else would you be arguing over? And then all of a sudden, Busquets, Alba, Allende, everybody just runs in and just starts making a whole mess of it. It's like nothing even happened. And then Messi gets involved. Messi's, finger pointing and stuff. It's like, what are we doing? This nothing happens. But they made it such a big deal. And then after that, New York City switches off. They play a big switch out to Alba, who floats it into the box, and Allende long header past Matt Freese to double the lead. Not a great start. You're thinking at this point, game's over, which is crazy. They were 20 minutes into the game. You're like, oh, well, this one's over. And then Justin Hack brings New York City back into it off of a header from a free kick in a wide area. They go into the half down one. You're thinking that maybe they can do something crazy here. But we said it in the preview that if you have to come out of your shell at any point versus this Miami team, you're in danger, especially if you don't prevent the forward pass. And that's what happened. In the 67th minute, Miami were able to get numbers forward. The ball gets played into Messi's feet in the box. Every single New York City defender and probably every single New York City fan tried to close him down in the box, leaving Silvetti wide open on the edge for an easy finish. Finishing off a 3-1 lead now. Then a brilliant combination in transition between Jordi Alba and Telasco Segovia made it 4-1, sending Taylor Twellman off into some Gen Alpha related vocal sim, which I still don't understand. But apparently everybody was pissed because he said 4-1 and all of their kids just went off the rails. Apparently it's like a 6-7 related comment. I'm now old. I can officially say that I'm now old, and I'm proud of it because I'm glad I don't understand that. But luckily, it didn't last very long because Allende heard that and said, "We can't be having this." He then finished off his hat trick in style to cap off a 5-1 win. Unfortunately for everybody who was voting for the Meteor, it did not come in this game. So we all lost, but Messi won. Let's hear your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I mean it's a credit to the outer part of Miami outside of Messi. I mean, I remember in our preview I had talked about if you can shut down Messi, you give yourself a chance. But I think that really undersold the impact of everybody else on that Miami team because they really are a super talented group even without Messi. I think if you swapped out Messi and put somebody else in there, you're probably still looking at a very strong team that could easily still be in the same position that they're in right now. Like they are a very, very good team, and it showed big time today against NYC because, as you mentioned, Messi was just not as prominent as he has been in previous games, and everybody else stepped up. And I think one guy that slips under the radar, and maybe not as much as I'm making it out to be, but just considering how much Messi gets the headlines, I feel like Jordi Alba has been unbelievably good for them. Like he has been phenomenal. Like probably the best fullback in the league so far this season. And he showed it again today in this game. Like what he can do to help the attack has been insane. Like he is just he might as well be a winger. Like he's crazy good in terms of link up play and what he can do. And he showed it with 2 assists, including the one that got Twelming freaking out. In fairness, it was such a slick goal. It was such a pretty goal to watch. But yeah, Miami looks like an unstoppable force right now. I genuinely like. I don't know who's coming in to stop them, but I think Vancouver matches up well enough that maybe they can make it a game. But they're gonna have to like it's going to be you're gonna have to be on your best game in order to take these guys down or even compete with them, honestly, because Miami's rolling through everybody, not just beating them, they're destroying everybody.
See, I knew you were going to say something like that. And what
Because it's
sucks is
true. You
what
knew I
sucks
would speak the truth.
what sucks is that the people who didn't actually watch this game and only watched highlights are going to think that Inter Miami walked this game with no issues and they
It was
destroyed everybody
five
in the.
one.
And while I'm thrilled that New York City got a deuce dropped on them, there needs to be a little bit of conversation to defend them. And since you fall into the category of the Gen Alpha nerd who can't sit still long enough to watch 90 minutes of a game, I have to be the one to do it. And the only reason I'm going to do it is because I get to point out all of their flaws in the way that this happens, right? There was a legitimate 30 to 40-minute period of this game where New York City was on the front foot controlling the game. You don't see it in the highlights because they didn't score from it, and that's the problem. But they had multiple chances to go level and take the lead. Right at the start of the second half, Rocco's Rios Novos playing out of the back just gives it away to the New York City team, sitting on the top of the box with Maxi Morales, their savior, wide open, have a shot on goal. He tries to play an extra pass and they clean it up. Right. Take on 15 minutes later, Julian Fernandez has a chance unmarked on the back stick that's it forces a really nice save at a Rocco's Rio Novo, but doesn't convert the chance. Right. At the end of the day, if you're not putting away those chances, you're going to leave yourself open for Messi to come get you. But the issue is that people are just going to walk around and be like, "Oh my God, 5-1, they killed it." No effort at all. They had moments in this game, a long time in this game where you're sitting there thinking they haven't touched the ball in 5 minutes, right? They haven't been able to play in transition. They haven't been able to do anything that they need to do to win this game. New York City has a chance to get back in this and they didn't convert their chance. But think about it. You put away both of those chances, right? The shot on the top of the 18 and the goal from play. You're up 3-2 now with, what was that? That was
No, I think
60.
you would have been 2-2 at the time because Hack's goal came after, I believe.
No, Hack's goal came before halftime. Both of those came in the second half. So you would have been up 3-2, and it would have been 20 minutes left. It's a different game now. But now, because you have to chase the game with 20 minutes left instead of defend the game with 20 minutes left, now you're opening yourselves up for Messi to pick you apart and for Miami to pick you apart. The issue with New York City is they didn't take their chances, right? But they had moments in this game where they took it to Miami, and Miami at home looked like they were on the back foot, which is telling for what's going to happen in the second round of the games, right? In that 20 to 30 minute period, I mean, let's put it this way, 40 minutes between goal two and goal three. If I can remember correctly, they only had two shots. And of those two shots, only one of them was actually relatively dangerous. They didn't make their chances count. And once again, they had to chase the game. And once they did, it was over. But when you have your moments, you have to put them away against Miami. And that's the issue. It wasn't that Miami played them off the park. I think Miami, like the last two goals of Miami came in the last 10 minutes of the game when they were pressing. That's not running the team off the park. If it was 5-0 at halftime, that's a different story. But it wasn't. So to people who are saying, oh, Miami walked them off the park, they really didn't. And I'm not saying New York City was bossing the game and they should have won the game, but they had moments to do it. And because they didn't, that again, I'm trying to make it like I don't care. Like I'm very happy they're out and I'm glad that they got walked because God, I hate them. But I don't want to sit here and feed into this idea like, oh, Miami walked them off the pitch, Messi's a savior, blah, 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 blah. Because at the end of the day, New York City had opportunities to change this game. They didn't take them.
Well, I mean, that's the difference between Miami and pretty much all their opponents that they're going up against. Yeah,
Right.
Miami's definitely going to leave the door open for some opportunities for teams, but you have to take every chance that you get. And that's the thing that Miami does so well right now is that they may not get 100 chances a game, but when they do get their chances, they are so clinical right now. They are finishing every chance that they get. And that's what's making these score lines insane because there's just unbelievably clinical. And some of it is credit to them getting themselves in good positions to have easier opportunities to finish them. And that's how they rack up 2.3 XG and five big chances and finish with five goals. Is because, these aren't like they've had a couple of good goals, right? But they're not like hitting it 40 yards out into the top corner. Like they're getting good good clean opportunities and they're taking them. Unlike what NYC did. As you mentioned, Maxi Morales has to do something more with that opportunity that Miami basically gifted them. Like that was, I think credit to what you were mentioning. That is a huge game changer.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that they fluffed that one up more than the Fernandez one. As much as he was like completely wide open, that was a huge missed opportunity for them, massive one. And it's like
Well,
for a Vancouver team, like you have to be finishing that. And I think Vancouver is in a better spot to be more clinical in those moments than NYC. So I think it'll be a better matchup in the Cup final. But I think that's the biggest difference maker. It's just Miami is just so lethal in the attack right now. They're just hitting it at like they're just being very um,
come on.
clinical with
Find the
all their
words.
finishing.
There you go. There you go. The other side of it too is right the timing of it. Right out of the halftime gate, you're on the front foot, you're pressing them high, you're taking the game to them. It finally is going to pay off for you, and you choose not to even take a shot. That's the issue. The issue isn't that Nova made a save, right? Like that on Fernandez's shot, great save, good on him. But the fact you didn't even test them in those moments, that's what's going to kill you because that wakes up Miami now. Like, oh, that's not very good. We probably should switch on and not do that again, right? If you take that moment, now at least when they switch on, you're not chasing the game anymore, right? So it's beautiful part of the game is the moments. It's 90 minutes that are decided in moments, right? And if you don't take advantage of those moments, the scoreboard looks after itself. And that's why it's such a nuanced game. Like I understand people can't sit and watch all 90 minutes. Oh, it's so boring, right? But it's boring until those moments come through, and that's what's all about. So listen, I think Miami showed some cracks. I think New York City as the 5 seed were not nearly as clinical as they needed to be, and that's expected, right? If you looked at it just based on the scoreline and the highlights, you look at it and say, yep, that's that's what we expect out of a Miami versus a 5 seed, right? It goes deeper than that. Miami showed some cracks, but if you don't take advantage of them, they're going to hurt you. And I also, again, I want to give a credit to Mascherano because he made, again, the tough manager grown up choices, right? No Suarez. Somebody else pointed this too. I didn't even think about it. Benched Ustari before the playoffs, but benched Ustari because he wasn't giving them the results that they needed to. Gave Rios Nova the shot. Now look where they are, right? It's one of those things where as a manager you can get very, very comfortable in just saying, well, this is the team. I don't want to take risks while we're heading into the playoffs. I want to have the same team going into it and be really comfortable with it. But somebody, I think it was Dax on the Major League Journeyman show doing their preview, made a really good point in that very rarely do teams playing the same exact style from regular season to playoffs find a lot of success, right? We talk about Philadelphia, we talk about Red Bull going in with their high press and it works in the regular season, but it doesn't work in playoffs. Well, now you got Miami who's like, okay, we're going to run out Suarez for 30 games and just hope for the best that his quality shines through even though we can't move. Well, now they're changing it to have Messi drop off the line and then play in behind and do all this sort of stuff. And that is giving them the success that people weren't prepared for, right? So now you only have 90 minutes to prepare for different changes, and that is such a credit to his decision to do that. So another hat tip to him in that moment.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I don't think I mean, I'll speak for my behalf. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what you said, but I definitely did not give him the credit that I think he deserves. And there's definitely moments where deserved criticism towards him, but he has done, in my opinion, very well with managing this team in the playoffs. So credit to Mastrano for that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's move on then to Vancouver. And Connor, Vancouver fans everywhere, they want to thank you. They want to send a heartfelt thank you to you because after you came onto this show and brazenly said that Vancouver were going to have the worst season in MLS history because of their lack of moves, their new coach, their uncertainty about the future of their club, they have now won the Western Conference Final, made it to MLS Cup Final, made it to the Champions League Final, won the Canadian Championship, and are tied for points at the top of the Western Conference. Oh, and they've signed Thomas Muller. Your podcast curse worked. Very well done.
You want me to respond back to that? As if we don't have concrete proof that I did not say any of that? Because I've got the predictions right here.
No, no, no. You are
It
supposed to
says I
say
had Vancouver in seventh. Sure,
you
I
are
didn't get Vancouver in exactly where they finished, but to say they were gonna have the worst season in history is a bit ridiculous and a bit defamatory, if I'm being honest.
one of these days I will find the clip and I'll send it to you. But you very, very clearly in our not so
In the
deep
age of
dives.
AI, I don't believe anything that you send me.
Oh man, don't get me started on that. They are flying. Jesper Sorensen has them moving in all directions, and they're getting key players back in their team. They rolled into the conference final against San Diego, who was not really threatening on the day, and they picked up a 3-1 win thanks to the New York Red Bulls Development Academy. That's right. An early double from Brian White and a Pablo Cisniega own goal gave them a early 2-goal lead and left San Diego shell-shocked. Vancouver looked so good very, very early, and they basically silenced Snapdragon Stadium. It was crazy how quickly it happened. Just bang, bang, bang. You didn't even know it was happening. And San Diego really could not generate anything in the first half. And then right before the halftime whistle, Brian White, the Red Bull legend, doubled his tally and gave Vancouver a 3-goal lead after Ali Ahmed basically ended Ian Pilcher's career. I mean, that step over, cross up, whatever you want to call it, was just sickening. And I remember watching it. I was watching it with a friend, and I lost my mind. I was like, "You have got to be kidding me that he just did that on live TV to a guy who has family and people who care about him, just in front of everybody, just made him look silly. Like that's crazy." At halftime, Mikey Varas decided to bring on his big guns, which I don't know why you wouldn't start them, at the start of the conference final, but Luca Della Torre, Franco Negri, and Chucky Lozano all came on, and they all made decent impacts, specifically Lozano, who nabbed a really nice goal in the 60th minute. But that was all the game had because in the 79th minute, Cisniega was sent off for a dog so foul outside the box, leaving San Diego with 10 men and their hopes for MLS Cup Final crushed. Your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I mean, this is, taking care of business in the first half and then, being able to just kind of manage the game at that point and see it out to send yourselves over to MLS Cup Final. But I feel like, we talked about this in the preview, but I think Vancouver's biggest strength is that midfield. Berhalter and Kubas are just so unbelievably good for them. And Ali Ahmed, I know they're kind of playing him wider, but he's always kind of a midfielder in my mind. But if I'm going to be generous and include him in that midfield, and just consider them as a trio, they were so crucial for Vancouver this game. They were unbelievably good for them. And it doesn't even, when you have a defense or a midfield that's that strong, it doesn't matter what you're throwing together back there in the back line. As long as it's semi-competent, you'll be fine. And that's exactly what happened. Berhalter and Kubas bossed the midfield game, bossed San Diego's midfield, and were a huge factor in Vancouver getting this win. And Brian White comes away with 2 goals and is probably going to be getting the highest ratings and man of the match and all that stuff. But I really do feel like those three had such a big impact, arguably maybe even a bigger impact than what Brian White brought. Not to say that Brian White did poorly, but they look really good. It's going to be an awesome MLS Cup final with Vancouver coming in against Miami, and it's not because of the Muller Messi headlines, but because there's so many awesome players on Vancouver that I would love to see go against Miami. The midfield battle is going to be awesome. Berhalter, Kubas against Busquets and DePaul. That's going to be so much fun to watch. Neither one of them have a super strong back line, so it's probably going to be goals galore. It's going to be ratings through the roof. It's a great matchup, but yeah, I mean, we didn't feel super confident on San Diego throughout the playoffs. I know I backed them in the final here, but I think it was more so negatives against Vancouver than it was positives for San Diego. And Vancouver just kind of, again, they bossed them in the midfield. They exposed their lack of, I guess, enough lack of quality in the midfield to be able to compete with Vancouver. And then if you if you got hold of Dryer and you made sure that he didn't go crazy on you, there just wasn't enough quality in the rest of the front line to be able to make up for it. The same way that Miami does, right? Like Messi was quiet in that game, but then you have Allende who steps up and scores a hat trick. San Diego didn't have that here. And it definitely I think there's still good quality for them to bring into the next season, but I'm not entirely shocked by this result.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's fair. I think we talked about, I mean, I like how you mentioned the San Diego not being overly impressive that we talked about because I think they showed their cracks, right? They were unable to break down Minnesota, and when they did, they missed easy chances. On the other side of it, they were giving away chances to Minnesota that realistically should have gone in and lost them the game. They have a home conference final and they got punched in the mouth, right? And that is, I don't want to, I want to put this the right way, but that's what I expect out of an expansion team. They are not well versed enough to know the moment, right? They haven't been through these sorts of games. They haven't been through these high stakes sorts of matches because again, think about it. They were in Leagues Cup. They didn't get very far and they didn't play Open Cup. So they really haven't had a lot of knockout tournament experience as a group. And for the first time, and we talked about it, if you shut down, you said it, if you shut down Dryer, there's not a lot more that they can do. And he was quiet all day, right? He couldn't pull out of it. And I think that there's a credit to Vancouver, right? Because Sorensen hasn't playing really well, but San Diego finally ran out of steam. And I think that they're going to need to put some defensive reinforcements in there. I think their wide players probably need a little bit more depth and maybe a center back or two. But I think they're in really good position. Guys like Bombino, Manu Dua, Andres Dreyer, they've got players to build around, and I'm excited to see what year two comes in, but they just ran out of steam here. On the other side of the ball, man, I loved how Vancouver played this match, right? And we talk about all the players that did really well, right? So Kubas and Berhalter, even Muller were counter pressing brilliantly. Sabi and Ali Ahmed, killers out wide, great areas, 1v1. White doesn't look like he's missed a beat. But one thing we don't talk about enough is the fact they did all this without their main starting center backs. They're down to their fourth and fifth center back, one of which is a center mid. I mean, it's just what an absolute unit win. Everybody came together and won that game. It wasn't just an individual performance, and it's so, so impressive. And now they're one game away from their first ever MLS Cup title. But before we move on, I want to ask you this big question kind of keeps popping up with San Diego from pundits and fans and you name it. About this being the best expansion season of all time, better than the 1998 Chicago Fire double winning season. I want you to give me your instant reaction with one sentence explanation. No fence leaning, agree or disagree, because I think that this actually ends up being an episode all on its own one day. But I want you to give me one sentence right now, no fence leaning. Go.
Okay, I this is not my sentence. All I'm gonna say is I definitely am not fence sitting on this one. I have a pretty steadfast opinion on this. But I'm gonna say, and this is not my sentence either.
Oh my
As
God.
as much as
Jesus Christ.
as as much as the current MLS state is tougher and more competitive, here's my sentence. No trophies is not gonna. Nope, that's not the right way to phrase it. You're putting me on the spot and asking me to come up with one sentence.
Oh no, I'm asking you to use your brain. Ah!
Yeah,
Oh
I'm gonna say no trophies, no party. Give me Chicago 98.
no. I like it. Definitely not the way I was going for it, but sure. I'm gonna say I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna say it is not better than the '98 season because at the end of the day, it ended with no silverware. And even though that MLS 1.0 in 1998 was a completely different beast, if you don't win trophies, I'm not considering you the best. And had it only been one, like, oh, they came in and they won Open Cup in the Supporters Shield, or Open Cup or the Supporters Shield, or Open Cup or the cup or MLS Cup or just Open Cup or whatever, then there's a conversation to be had because you had to go through four teams to win anything. But not, they did it twice, so I'll give it to them. All right, let's do a preview of MLS Cup Final 2025. We started season six 9 months ago, probably early, probably more like 10 months ago. Now that we're coming in on December, it just blows my mind how quickly we have gotten here down to the final game taking place at 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, December 6th. Because when do you want to play a final? In the afternoon when everybody's playing soccer. Yes, you do. Love it. Thomas Muller and the Vancouver Whitecaps heading down to Inter Miami to take on Messi and friends. Some are saying, and this will be before the preview, some are saying that this is gearing up to be the best final game in league history based on play style and star power. What are your thoughts on that?
That's. I don't think that's so ludicrous to say. I really do feel like it could be. I'm not sure I want to jump on that bandwagon, like just on the spot, but I don't feel like it's as ludicrous as maybe some people may think.
Good for you. I'm glad that you're able to get back onto your fence. I know you were very uncomfortable the first time.
Well, you took me
Very,
off the
very.
fence. I have to get back on my fence.
You're like Humpty Dumpty, but if you got caught, you're like you didn't break, but now we're gonna put you back up here and you're nice and safe. Um, I would agree in terms of eyes on the match, right? Messi alone is obviously going to bring that in, but now you add another superstar player caliber to the mix, and you're going to double the moment, right? I can't remember off the top of my head the last time we had somebody this influential, like maybe Beckham, but even Beckham didn't get to play another player in MLS Cup on the other side of him, right? And Houston, they beat a New England side.
There probably wasn't anybody against
No, I can't.
Beckham.
Yeah, I mean Houston definitely not, and
I mean,
and
I don't think he's the quality of player of these other guys, but Gareth Bale also has a pretty well-known, large like
no,
reputation.
for sure. But again, who's on the other side of that? He played against Philly,
Yeah, there's not.
right?
There's
And it's no disrespect to anybody who are in those games, but the issue was that you have two players on both sides that are just juggernauts, right? And again, I think what it was is in early days MLS, they knew Messi would be here at some point, so they had to save it for Messi. Otherwise, they would have been done Beckham versus Henri and not rigged it against Red Bull every year to prevent us from being there. So there you
Red Bull
go.
mentioned the episode.
Got it. Um, but yeah, listen, Miami are on a run of unimaginable proportions. They have only been held under 4 goals twice in 5 games. 4 goals in 3 of their 5 games, and then they had 3 goals in their win against Nashville and only 1 goal in their loss to Nashville, which is just plain stupid. Mascherano has grown up as a manager, as we spoke about. He's made the big choices. Suarez is stuck to the bench. Ustari hasn't seen action in a while. Everybody's healthy. They're flying on all cylinders. It's a dangerous team. Messi just broke records for most assists of all time. He makes everybody around him better, and he picks apart defenses for fun. Allende's playing like a man possessed, so that he looks to be the real deal. Alba and Busquets, obviously at another level. Rocco's Rios Novo and even Maxi Falcone are playing at a pretty decent level in the back to prevent goals. They haven't conceded more than 2 goals in 4 of those 5 games. But we also know that they're prone, at the very least, to conceding chances in those games. New York City had chances to go level. Nashville had chances to take leads in their games, and they didn't take them. So, can Vancouver capitalize on the opportunities they are undoubtedly going to have? Speaking of Vancouver, this is an actual unit, an actual group, an actual team. Everybody's talking about Muller, 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 but the group around him is so good. Brian White back in the mix, massive. Already nabbing a brace in the conference finals. Ali Ahmed is playing at a level that I've tweeted out already, but they are going to make a ton of money off of the sale of Ali Ahmed, and they're going to deserve every penny of it. Emmanuel Sabi looks really good on the other side. The double pivot of Sebastian Berhalter and Andres Cubas is the best thing we've seen since, I don't know, Dax McCarty and Felipe, probably.
You already had your reference. Cool
And we
it.
get it again, baby. We get it again. Um, and Takayoko is a goalkeeper of the year candidate, right? You're getting back Tristan Blackman. You're going to have a little bit more balance in your defensive line, and they counter press so well in really, really good areas, and they convert those chances. So I want to start before we get into the actual predictions. Give me some players to watch for this game on both sides, one on each, just one.
Okay. I'm going to put the focus on the midfield for both teams because I really do think that that's going to be the biggest win or lose there. So I'm going to go for Rodrigo De Paul on the Miami side. I think this is going to be the toughest midfielder that Vancouver's had to face so far in the playoffs. And then on the Vancouver side, I am going to go for I'm going to go for Kubas. I know Berhalter's maybe the name more well known to people, but Kubas has been fantastic, a little bit more under the radar because he's not necessarily getting the goals like Berhalter is or in the national team like Berhalter is. Um, I think both of them are going to have a huge role to play in this game, and I think if one of them outshines the other, it's going to make a significant swing towards their team.
You can also just say Berhalter on the plane to, you know, the World Cup because we all know he's going.
I mean, who says no? Not me.
Don't look at the Twitter, but not me. I've got two as well, and I'm actually gonna have to change one because I had Kubas as well. I'll start there. I picked Kubas because he reminded me very much of Aiden Morris at Columbus, right? When we talk about the counter press, and if you think about Columbus's 2023, yeah, it was LAFC, Columbus, and then LA Galaxy. Yeah, the 2023 game, everything that Columbus got off of was from the counter press of Aiden Morris. They found so much success pressing in good areas and winning it back because Aiden Morris was very, very good at it. That is what Andres Cubas is doing for Vancouver. So I think that if he does uh, really, really well and prevent that forward pass and transition, they have a good chance to do that. But because you picked Cubas, I will also focus on Ali Ahmed because one of the things that I noticed, and I'm going to spoil a little bit of my predictions here, is that Ali Ahmed is great in one-on-ones, and he's great in transition, and he's great going against slow defenders, which all of which he's going to get against Miami. So once he gets into those dangerous areas, can he convert in the key moments, right? We talked about that for every team that's played Miami is you're going to get chances, you're going to get them in transition, but you have to put them away. If you can do that, you're in a good shot. For Miami, I'm actually going to focus on Tadeo Allende. He had a hat trick in the conference finals, and he has 8 goals in 5 playoff games to this point. He has more than Messi, which is saying something, right? He's playing so well off of Messi, and they seem to have finally found a system to unlock his potential, which is huge. But what I'm focused on is stemming off of his regular season struggles. We see people do this all the time where they're red hot, red hot, red hot. Then when the big moment comes, they freeze up and they go back to their old ways. And in the regular season, he scored a bunch of goals, but he missed a ton of sitters as well. And there were, I mean, if you go on to Inter Miami Twitter, everybody's calling for his benching. I actually remember I went on to chat Red Bull Miami versus or Red Bull versus Miami with Battered Herons, and the comments were all just saying, as long as Allende doesn't play, we have a chance. I mean, it was that bad. So they can't afford to have that Allende show up. All eyes are going to be on him to see if he can continue his red hot form and win Miami a trophy. It's going to be something to watch. But Connor, we found out how we got here. We've done our players to watch. Get on record. You've only gotten one prediction right so far, haven't you?
That's not true. I predicted Miami to win, and I think I had at least two in the round before that.
You didn't make predictions in the round before that.
No, I did in the conference semifinals.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So you're kind of doing okay. Well, now you got to go on record and make it known who you got. Vancouver. By the way, before we get into this, Vancouver, for those of you who remember, faced off against Miami in the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinals of 2025. They beat them 5-1 on aggregate. Different teams very, very early in this season, right? A couple of players who are no longer on the team for both sides. But can they do it again on the biggest stage in MLS? What is your prediction?
I think you're not going to like my prediction here, but I am going to go with Miami in this one. As I mentioned before, I think Vancouver's strongest point is their midfield. As much as Ali Ahmed and Thomas Muller and Brian White bring quality to the field, I think the game for them is won and lost with Seb Berhalter and Kubas, who have been unbelievable this entire playoffs. Say what you want about maybe I know Berhalter's been strong the entire season, but say what you want about Kubas during the regular season if you had complaints or not, but he's stepped up big time in the playoffs here and they have been bossing the midfield in all the games that they've participated in. The thing for me is I really do feel like Miami's midfield is going to be the toughest they've had to go up against so far. It's going to be a big test, and I'm not saying that they're not up for it, but I think that Rodrigo De Paul and Sergio Busquets is going to be the toughest that they're going to have to go up against. I'm not saying Busquets is obviously physically going to be the toughest, but he's still even in his ripe old age of what 38, 39, playing the ball all over the field for that unbelievably explosive Miami attack. I think it's going to be a shootout. I really don't think there's going to be a lot of defending in this game, which is fantastic for the ratings and fantastic for the viewers, especially the third party viewers. But I'm gonna say that Miami's midfield is going to be able to compete with Berhalter and Kubas, and I think the quality of the Miami attack is stronger than Vancouver's, and as long as you can match them in the midfield game, I think the rest of the attack can do what they need to, as they have been to take Miami and Messi to the promised land.
I think you mean neutral fan, not third party viewer, but we move.
Whatever, you get it.
I also, you keep hyping on Rodrigo De Paul like you play FIFA too much. I don't think he's looked that good. For somebody who's coming in from Atletico Madrid and supposed to be making this huge impact, I don't think he's been that good. I'm not saying he's been bad, but I mean, he came in and we thought nobody's going to get by the midfield of Inter Miami. He's just going to clean everything up and move on. Half the time, I don't even know who's on the field, which is a problem. And I'm just not. I have not been impressed. Let me put it this way: I have not been impressed to see him become a $17.5 million signing. That eventually he probably will end up being once Busquets retires. I just don't think he's worth the money. I'm not saying he's not worth a good fee, but he's not a $17 million signing. That's crazy. Um,
Probably not.
anyways, I think this game comes down to two things, and they're both on Vancouver's side because they're going to be the ones who are going to have to take the game to them. Is Thomas Muller fully healthy? He came off in the 60th minute against the conference finals, and the statement was precautionary because of some things that happened in the week prior. He came off in extra time against LAFC for what looked like a muscle injury as well, and he's been such a difference maker for Vancouver. And Ryan Gauld, though, is a very, very good player. Is he sharp enough and fit enough to go 90 minutes? I don't know if Muller can't go. And then secondly, how does Vancouver approach this game? We talked about both teams are both going to want to be on the ball. They're both going to want to control the game. But I think Vancouver can also take advantage of Miami in both their shape and their backline tactics by leaving either Sabi or most desirably Ali Ahmed high and playing in transition themselves. And I'll be honest with you, I could see it multiple different ways, right? I could see them playing in transition. I could see him pressing them high after they give the ball away. I could see them doing a whole bunch of things. But that's what's making this matchup really interesting and how they're going to approach it because the tactics are going to matter in this one. I'll tell you, this is not going to be just throw it out there and play with heart and something will change. You're going to have to win this game here as much as you're going to have to win it here. And I'm super, super excited. I'm probably going to have to watch it on replay because I'm coaching this weekend because 2:30 p.m. is the right time to play a final. Good job. But I will. I mean, I'm gonna have to end up watching it back, but I can't wait to see how they approach it. And I can already picture it in my head. Miami lifting the trophy, pictures of Messi smiling, Alba and Busquets go out on a high note. All the other, all the Messi bots tweeting the pictures at Ronaldo bots on Twitter saying, "Look what you guys haven't done. Look at what we've done." But my heart tells me that this Vancouver story is too good to pass up. I'm taking Vancouver in penalties to win MLS Cup over Miami.
That's bold.
So
I didn't know we were doing bold predictions this late in the season.
everything's a bold prediction, baby. Um, really, really fun. I can't wait for this because I think it's going to be a phenomenal game. We've talked about this already, but we should give some shout outs because we did post question of the week last week about the conference finals and who was going to be the matchup that we were going to get in MLS Cup. We got a total of 64 votes between Twitter and YouTube. I can't do the math here. I'll give you the majorities. Nobody said San Diego versus New York City. RIP. San Diego Miami was a close was third. Vancouver New York City was a second, and then far and away the most voted on choice was Vancouver and Miami. So well done to our listeners for getting it right. A couple of shout outs here. Cody saying that Vancouver just looked so very good back to front. Midfield looks nasty. Miami looked better without Suarez, fast, fluid, and dynamic. I know his stature in the game and all, but he can't start. They didn't, and they won, so very good. And then Big Easy 79 says Vancouver and Miami is the final we all deserve. That's on Twitter. And then over on the comments on YouTube, Tim Olson says that Miami for sure is going to beat New York City, but in the West, it's going to be a closer match. Wasn't really that close, but not a bad shout. He said, "We saw Vancouver playing as LAFC is proof that the team is elite, and I think that they'll beat San Diego." So well done, Tim, for that prediction as well. We're going to have one more up there. I think you guys can guess what it's going to be. Let's see if we can predict MLS Cup Final correctly. We are split down the middle here on the podcast, so we're going to need our fans to break the vote. So we will post that up here very, very soon, and you guys can get voting. But thank you so much for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you are following us, as we said, on social media so you can interact with us and take part in these polls. That's Twitter, it's YouTube, it's TikTok. Those are the three that we're using the most. Make sure you go over there and hang out. And then also follow us wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a rating, give us a shout out because we want to continue to hold our number one spot on feedspot.com. Thank you so much again to FeedSpot for helping us and putting us on that map. Thanks so much again for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.